Morgan is leading the push for medical marijuana in Florida.
Always win.
Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd is pushing back.
It's a fraud.
Tonight, the two leading voices on Amendment 2 face off in their first live televised debate.
John Morgan and Sheriff Grady Judd live in our studios right now, ready to roll. Tonight, you're going to hear both sides of this hot debate. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fox 13. I'm Mark Wilson. Where do you stand on Amendment 2? Hopefully, this next half hour will help you make up your mind. We have a lot of ground to cover. First, John Morgan. He's one of Florida's best-known attorneys. He runs a large personal injury firm, bankrolled the medical marijuana. He also chairs United for Care, a group that got Amendment 2 on the ballot. For Morgan, it's personal. He this campaign for his own brother who is paralyzed and others who suffer from severe pain and debilitating disease. On the other side of the table tonight, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd. He has a law and order perspective. He says this amendment is vague and susceptible to abuse. Sheriff Judd joined the Polk County Sheriff's Office back in 1972, first elected sheriff in 2004 and now serving his third term. He is also the immediate past president of the Florida Sheriff's Association, which opposes Amendment 2. So you can conversation tonight on Twitter. The hashtag here to use is Fox13Debates. You can tweet for John Morgan or I'll review your questions in just a couple of moments. First, let's head to Studio B, where Fox 13's political editor Craig Patrick is there, ready to kick off the debate with our guests. Craig.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, gentlemen. Let's with the language on the ballot. We'll begin, Mr. Morgan, with you. Lists the amendment 9 specific conditions or diseases, then states or other conditions as deemed by a physician. What's to stop what the sheriff calls pot docs from abusing an open-ended list and recommending marijuana to just about anybody who wants it?
The only thing that stops that is an unethical doctor. It's the same thing when an unethical doctor decides to prescribe OxyContin to somebody who doesn't need it. It's the same thing as an unethical pharmacist who steals pills and sells them out the back door. There's crooked lawyers, doctors, there's crooked cops. You can't stop crooks. I trust doctors.
Well, the fear of being caught and effective law enforcement can stop crooks. Why can't you just root out the bad apples in this, those who would seek to abuse the system, so this could be implemented, Sheriff, with very little abuse?
Well, that's not the point. The point is the lawyers that crafted this, John Mills, specifically wrote 5 loopholes in the amendment. And do you know why? Because they wanted de facto legalization of marijuana. I mean, they say things like a person marijuana. Do you know who a person is? You're a person. I'm a person. Our teenagers are considered a person by law. And then they said, just like you said, other conditions. I can't sleep at night. That's a legitimate condition. That describes every law enforcement I've ever known.
So why an open-ended list? Why not a finite list?
List would have been done if they'd been done in Tallahassee. They didn't do their job in Tallahassee. List out, I could have forgotten something. For instance, the person who's going to benefit the most, and I did forget him, on this list is my brother Tim. He's a quadriplegic. He uses medical marijuana every day illegally in Florida. It's the only thing he has. He's had 3 pills that he's been prescribed since he's been hurt that have been recalled. They're so bad. If he took the Xanax that they want him to take, he takes 7 a day. Did I put quadriplegia on there? No, I didn't. I trust our doctors. There will be new diseases, there will be new injuries, there will be new symptoms. Post-traumatic stress disorder. But I can tell you this, our veterans, who's 3 wars, they've come back broken and spent. People who support this more than any other than cancer survivors.
Sheriff, speak to his brother Tim, who takes marijuana illegally, who suffers immeasurably. If you saw him doing this in your jurisdiction under our current laws, would you arrest him?
Well, first off, let me tell you that my heart breaks for Tim. John's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. But under the current laws, he would be violating the law. But we're not talking about medical marijuana for only the sickest and the very diseased and those with injuries such as Tim. That's not what we're talking about. If that's all it were, I wouldn't be sitting here tonight. But the reason I'm here is because of the 5 loopholes that were intentionally crafted not for Tim's benefit, but for everybody's benefit who wants to go into a pot dock and get marijuana. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here, because of Tim's condition.
You've heard the sheriff previously call this a fraud. Fraud implies deliberation. When the sheriff calls this a fraud, what do you say?
Well, I say he's wrong. I say, look, I was part of it. I do not want there to be the legalization of marijuana. If I did, I'd have had a legalization of marijuana amendment. At the end of the day, listen, we have doctors who have a roadmap. Cancer, epilepsy, debilitating injuries, illnesses. If I ask you, is a hangnail debilitating? You'd say no. You know why? Because it's not that hard to figure out. You have to allow doctors, who right now, by the way, can prescribe poisons to us. Oxycontin, Xanax, things that are in people's medicine cabinets today kill. Oxycontin kills 16,000 every year. Other prescription drugs kill another 16,000, and over-the-counters like Tylenol kill 12,000. If you don't trust our doctors, if you don't trust our doctors, vote no on 2. If you trust doctors, vote yes on 2.
What about your ability to crack down on the so-called term off? Other sheriffs scare them out of the state.
Let me first tell you that the National Medical Association, the Florida Medical Association have all said this is not medicine. Smoked marijuana is not medicine. Even the Cancer Institute says smoked marijuana is not medicine. When's the last time you went to and the doctor said, smoke this until you feel better?
By the way, I'll tell you, it's not medicine. It's not medicine. It's a plant put into.
Concerned about edibles because they're marketing to our children gummy bears.
You know why he looked over at me? He's been running around Florida, and I love this guy. He's been running around Florida scaring people with gummy bears like we're going to be selling gummy bears to children out of a vending machine. First of all, if it would be a trademark violation day one, because I can promise you this, Sheriff, if somebody's selling gummy bears, the gummy bear people are going to call me, and I'm going to sue them, and we're going to get a lot of gummy bears back for that lawsuit. So you got to quit talking about gummy bears, because I know what you're trying to do, and it's smart politics. You're trying to scare us. We're going to have our kids on tricycles riding around the blocks eating gummy bears, and that's not the case.
But it is the case. Let me finish my statement. That's what good lawyers do. He is a good lawyer, by the way. Gummy bears, popsicles, lollipops, cake, cookie. The Amendment 2 says one of the loopholes that they can make products containing marijuana. Why do we want that? And who are we marketing to with lollipops, gummy bears, candies, cookies? Who are we marketing to? I've not heard one person in that arena.
He uses chocolate. He uses a piece of chocolate in the morning and a piece of chocolate at night. Nobody is selling. Kids can't buy marijuana in edibles, and if they buy it, they're going to have they can't. They have to get this. You have to go to a doctor. People say, "Oh, I worry about these kids getting gummy bears." Let me tell you what would have to happen. A kid would have to get on his bicycle, go down to the doctor's office, walk into the doctor and say, "Hey, doc, I'm here." The doctor said, "Come on back, son. Where's your mom? Don't worry about it. Hey, give me some gummy bears." That's what he believes.
This sentence, other conditions for which a physician believes that the medical use of marijuana would likely add potential health risks for a patient. The amendment notes potential health risks. Just so we're both clear here, what do each of you see as the health risks? Starting with the health
risk. Wait a minute. He talked last.
Oh, okay.
He'll Bogart a microphone now. He's my buddy. When you look at it, it says when it's outweighed by the health risk, right? Well, think about this. They say there's no danger in it. So you get a pot doc, he'll give you medical marijuana for anything. If we were John's brother Tim, the very sick, the very diseased, with a specific list. That's not the issue.
If that was the issue, if
Grady,
the list of these 9, would you still oppose this amendment? If it was closed-ended, if there was not an open-ended list?
Answer that question.
I'm going to answer this
question. Because I know you're going to run
question.
for governor someday, so I want to get this. Would you, if it was just those 9, would you support it?
No. Let me say this.
Answer that question.
I'm about
It's yes or no?
No, it's not yes.
Yes or no?
Listen,
would you oppose the amendment if it was closed-ended to these 9?
That's not what the amendment says, and that's what we're talking about tonight.
But that's not the question.
Now,
Grady,
John, let me ask you.
Don't start pleading the 5th on us, because we know what happens when you plead the 5th. We don't
Let me ask you this. Let me challenge you. What if you'll join me and vote no on this amendment? I'll sit down with you and we'll work on legislation that crafts
When
to
people
significant
take
diseases.
the 5th, we know what they mean.
I haven't taken the 5th.
Answer that question.
I just did.
You did not. And everybody watching knows it.
I said when you join me and vote no on 2 because of those 5
I'm
loopholes.
never going to vote no on 2 because
then you and I
the
can
last
sit
question.
down.
The last question you asked at the end of that was, what are the medical risks of using marijuana?
We'll close on that in this segment.
None.
Is it addictive?
That's why they'll give it to everybody that wants
it's addictive, but listen, the medical risk to a person in a hospice center, return from wars, there is no medical risk. Not one person in America or the world has ever died from marijuana. There are no medical risks to using marijuana.
We're still a long way from finished. I want you to hold that thought because
we're talk some more.
We're going to. And I'm going to send it back to
Grady answer that question.
I'm going to come back to it one more time. I'm going to send it over to Mark, though, who's following the conversation on Twitter. Mark, take it away.
All right, Craig, we have plenty of time to finish that. I know everybody wants to see you guys finish that. We're only halfway through. Join in the conversation by tweeting us your questions at MyFoxTampaBay and include the hashtag Fox13Debates. We're going to check the hashtags. We're going to check all the tweets right now. We'll continue this debate over medical marijuana. Amendment 2 here in Florida. In a moment, we'll be right back.
When you
Welcome back to Fox 13's debate over medical marijuana, specifically in Florida. Tonight, Sheriff Grady Judd and Attorney John Morgan are facing off in their televised debate here on the issue. Of course, the voters were going to have the final say here. You will decide if medical marijuana becomes legal in Florida. Here's some background, though. Right now, 23 states have laws allowing medical marijuana here. There are 2 states, Colorado and Washington. They're the ones in the bright green. Those states go a step. They have made marijuana legal for everyday use. Now, Florida's Amendment 2 would not recreational use. But if voters do pass it, patients with a debilitating disease or a condition could get a recommendation from a doctor, apply for a state-issued card, and then purchase marijuana from a state-regulated dispensary. Amendment 2 would need more than a simple majority to pass as well. It would need 60% to be written into the Constitution. And guys, here's one of the questions we've gotten from our viewers on Twitter. Beverly Hamrick, she writes, why can't medical be dispensed at pharmacies with a prescription like any other drug through proper channels with FDA approvals? Now, obviously, the FDA is not approving of medical marijuana at this point, but a similar tweet along the same vein that perhaps you could pitch to the other in this case was from Amy Mae DeRoss. She says, Sheriff, is there any way a medical marijuana law can be written that you wouldn't oppose? Craig?
Let's start right there with Sheriff Judd. Is there a form that you would support?
There is not a form of this amendment because Amendment 2 has loopholes in it so that anyone that wants to. But the Florida Sheriff's Association endorsed and supported Charlotte's Web, which was passed by the legislature, which doesn't have an intoxicant, very, very low percentage, in cannabinoids. And that's where this needs to be dealt with in the Florida legislature. So if there is an issue, the legislature can come back and correct it next year. The problem is, if you vote for Amendment 2, it goes in the Constitution. Almost impossible to get it out.
We've done it before.
Almost impossible to correct. We have pig excluders in the Constitution.
Well, we have
Think
a train,
about
you
that.
have a 21st Amendment in the United States, an 18th Amendment. It has been done.
Exactly.
Hold that thought. Let's come back to the issue of doctors would recommend not prescribe. Tell us why.
Because in America, this is a Schedule I drug. There will never be FDA approval, and I'll tell you why not. People more powerful than Grady don't want it. That's the pharmaceutical makers. If you think Grady is against this, the makers of OxyContin are really against it. You can never have approval because you're never going to have the testing in America because it's a Schedule I drug. And so the dog will chase his tail forever, and that's exactly what Big Pharma wants.
What's then President, U.S. Attorney General then from cracking down, citing this federal law and sending potentially people who distribute marijuana in this state to jail and arresting those 1,000? You say it would help.
Well, the president, this is a state's, nothing's going to, if you think, listen, Tallahassee's bad. The reason we're here with the constitutional amendment is this: Tallahassee wouldn't even hear testimony from Kathy Jordan, much less. That's why we're here. But you know what they did debate the whole time? Whether you could have a bigger mug of beer or not. That was the fight in Tallahassee. And so if you think that they're going to go to Washington with the money, the pharmaceutical companies that funnels money to both parties, there is no way, because money is more powerful than any other factor in America.
But you've started something. You've started something here in the state.
I
You
have.
said they wouldn't have hearings. The outgoing Senate president has said that he himself purchased marijuana for an ailing minister. You have the Charlotte's Web legislation. How can you say that you would be dead and gone if this does not pass this year, given the newfound momentum that we're seeing?
Because Charlotte's Web is good for a few children with epilepsy. But to go to Tallahassee, you're going to have the power of the big pharma companies stopping this. Grady told us he won't even answer the question, would you support this drug, just these illnesses? If that's all it was, if I could take out all the loophole language, if I could just take out all the loophole language and just say cancer, glaucoma, HIV, hepatitis, ALS, Crohn's, Parkinson's, and I'll throw in quadriplegia for my brother. Is that okay?
Let me ask you this. If that's so, why didn't you write it that way?
Because I would have left something out, but you're not answering. Grady Judd won't admit it tonight. That's why it won't pass in Tallahassee, because there is too much power and money stopping it. That's the easiest question of the night.
The question that I've offered to negotiate with you, you vote with me on this amendment because it's a terrible
Grady,
vehicle.
I would listen. If it was you, listen. I will tell you, because we have been friends a long time. If I was to negotiate with you, I would. But let me tell you something, and I think we can agree on this. I don't trust Tallahassee. Do you? Do you?
You've got to work
Grady,
the system.
do you?
Do you
No.
trust Tallahassee?
Absolutely not.
There are good people in Tallahassee.
You tell me some, but do you trust them?
Well, we worked
Do
with
you trust
Charlotte's
Tallahassee?
Web.
Do you trust Tallahassee?
I trust some of them.
That's right.
What happens to violent crime if this amendment passes?
I think the crime rate is going to be up some and then down some because that crime is cyclical. We're at a 43-year low.
But I saw a study out of UT Dallas showing that there's a correlation in the 11 states that passed medical marijuana through 2006 and a drop in crime based on FBI data.
Very true.
But it depends on what period of time that you looked at this because
90 to 06.
Okay, 90 to 06. What happened between 90 and 06 is when we change the way we police, when we go after predictive policing or proactive policing and we go to problems or hot spots, marijuana laws did not change. Proactive policing did. Interesting, and the question here, because I'm going to nail you down on this, is it's simple.
Be careful. Don't make a promise you can't keep.
I'm fixing to. When you look at this and you see that the Florida Sheriff's Association supported Charlotte's Web, which was specific illnesses, take the intoxication, push up the cannabinoids, we supported that. That's common sense. I don't want you to craft, wait a minute, I don't want you to craft that this is the sheriff's against medical marijuana or marijuana for medical purposes. All we're against is Amendment 2 in its current form, and we can't change it. So the thing is, vote against it, send us all back
to Tallahassee.
And do it right.
To Tallahassee?
To
Tallahassee? Is that where you want it fixed, Grady?
I think.
Yes or no?
I think with
you
your
have been
power
you have been
and your
slippery
authority,
tonight. You are.
You know what?
I'm gonna have to.
If I was any slippery, I'd have to be an attorney.
Let's talk about this as written. Physicians who recommend medical marijuana cannot be held legally responsible or liable if that recommendation causes a patient harm. You built your career on holding medical professionals negligent when they make errors or lapses in judgment. Why then are doctors off the hook?
Immunity is very, very limited under this, and they're off the hook because think about this. What if I'd done it the other way? Grady be going, you know what? Old John Morgan's trying to figure out a way for himself to make some more money. Now I put immunity in for doctors, and God forbid.
Just because you think people might think it's self-serving?
No, because a doctor should not have a liability for simply prescribing medical marijuana. That's not fair. That's not right. They're not. If they start selling it out the back door, if they start doing what pill mills do, they will be criminally liable. But just for the fear, like a doctor should not be criminally liable for prescribing Xanax, for example, and they're not. If they start doing it in an illegal manner, then they will be. It's the same thing.
Isn't it interesting that the local businessman can be held liable, that the local doctor can be held liable for legitimate diagnosis, but yet the people who grow can poison you with it, and they're not held liable? That the caregiver who only has to be 21 years of age and have no more than 5 customers is not liable, and they don't even have to have any training. They're not even doctors.
You fear this can be abused. That's the core of your argument here, and you say you've seen how drug abuse ruins families, devastates families. You've also seen how alcohol devastates families. I've had a lot of people say, how do you distinguish alcohol from marijuana? If you want to oppose this, why then, they ask, are you not also opposing alcohol laws?
I'm not distinguishing it that it's any less or any more addictive than alcohol. I'm saying that the amendment in its current form is a train wreck.
Alcohol, good point. #1 domestic violence day of the year, Super Bowl Sunday. No police officer, I guarantee you, Grady Judd and his crowd isn't called for domestic violence where somebody's had too much marijuana. Grady Judd gets called out when people have had too much cocaine and booze and tequila and beer. Alcohol puts marijuana shame when it comes to the violence and the mayhem. People go from Red Bull and vodka to cocaine.
All right.
People go from marijuana.
5 seconds, we've got to close.
Craig, let me ask you this. You'd show me one family who has a child that's been addicted to drugs and marijuana wasn't part of it, and that'll be the first one 40 years. It's addictive and it's dangerous, but that's not the problem.
Thank you both. Gentlemen, I really appreciate your time. We're going to send it back to Mark.
All right, Craig. Much. We want to thank everybody at home for joining in as well, YouTube channel. We also have a 30-minute special on the race for Florida governor. You'll find that on myfoxtampabay.com under Seen on TV. We'll continue to track the races, the candidates, the issues, all as we count down to Election Day 2014 right here on Fox 13. Thanks for watching. Have a great night tonight. We'll see you a bit later tonight at 10.